My name is Tuppence. I've been shopping on Temu again and I saw this wonderful pot. This is what drew me to it, the shape of this pot, but it actually comes with these bunny ears for a lid. And as Easter is coming, I figured this is too cute to pass up. So I've bought this and I'm intending to make this out of resin. I'm going to be adding some of these colours. This is Stargazer and Iridescent Blue. They are colours from Lumiarte. And I want to kind of get a cloudy sky kind of look in the bunny pot. So we'll see if that happens. I'm going to be using craft resin. It's my go-to resin and it's a low viscosity one, which I figure is going to help me out because this pot itself looks pretty wide. It looks like it's going to take up quite a bit of resin. I don't know how much it's going to take because I've never made this before, so I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to try 5 ounces to begin with, and if I need to mix up more for the ears, then I'll do that after. I've also got it on my G3 tray because I intend to pop this into my machine and help speed up the curing because it's still a little bit cold here in my studio. So let me go ahead and mix up my resin. My resin is mixed up and I have got 5 ounces. I've just let it sit for a little while to debubble, and now I'm going to separate this into 2 bits. So I'm not going to do it equally. I do want everything to predominantly be blue. So there's about 3.5 ounces left in here, 1.5 in there. I'm going to put the iridescent blue. It says it's iridescent blue. It's just a shift. It's mostly white with a kind of bluey cast. And if I can get this open, I'm going to put that into the smaller portion because I do want this to just be sort of the clouds that might be in the sky. Hopefully that's what I'm going to achieve. And this one is Stargazer. This is a gorgeous blue. It gives you a purpley pink cast. I absolutely love this one. So that I'm going to put into the 3.5 ounces. I'm going to put quite a bit in there. It's a very strong pigmented colour. And I just need to stir these through. I really should, I will learn one day, I really should have mixed this in with a little bit of resin first, just to break down that powder. But I'm just going to keep stirring this until I get all of that powder incorporated and the colour goes all the way to the bottom of the cup. You can already see that pink and purple shift in there. It's so pretty. That's nice and mixed in, so let me grab a clean stick and I'll do the same to this one. Okay, that's almost mixed through and you can see that this one's got a nice sky blue sheen to it. I'm just going to wipe these sticks off using some paper towels, try and keep everything tidy. Scrape that back in. I think this one, they say it's called Stargazer. It looks very much like a periwinkle to me, but it's so pretty. Right, now I haven't used these moulds before. They've come straight from the factory. So I am going to give this a quick squirt of isopropyl alcohol. That way, if there is anything on the inside, dust, whatever, hopefully that will clean it. So I'm just going to get my finger in there and spread that around. And also that should help with some bubbles, I'm hoping. Right, just make sure that is all nice and spread around. And now I can start to fill the pot. So let me move them into the middle. And I'm just going for a random pour. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of blue and white and just keep going. And I've got a horrible feeling that I don't have enough. And I think I probably should have made up a little bit more white. Just try and keep this nice and clean. All right, that looks like that's the last of the white. I'll scrape that out in a minute. But I definitely don't have enough. So let me scrape everything out and make sure that I've used up whatever I've made up already. Okay, last little bit. and then the blue. So this was 5 ounces, so I now know that this pot on its own takes more than 5 ounces. Probably more, 5, well, maybe 6 by the time I get that in there. Okay, almost done. Right, so I am definitely going to have to mix up a little bit more. Okay, I've already mixed up my colours. I'm going to pour some white onto the bottom of the pot. That is almost topped up. And I'm going to put some white in the bottom of the ears as well. I'm going to go with the same pattern of just keep alternating the colours until these are filled up. A little bit at a time. Just need a tiny bit more for this. And I think that is probably enough for that. I love the effect you get where both of those colours mix. It's so pretty. So I'm hoping that I've got enough now for the rest of this. I'm going to just keep alternating the white and the blue until I've filled up the ears. And then I'm going to transfer this over to my other table and I can top them up completely. I'm going to let these sit for about an hour or so, just to give them a chance to degas as much as they can, and then I'll pop the machine on and these should be ready to demold in a couple of hours. So I'm just going to put this last bit of blue in. Whoop. Okay, that's another cleanup I've got to do. Oh, that's so pretty, look at it. I love that effect, the way that the two colours are blending. They look amazing. Alright, I will be back after these are cured and I can demold them. These are completely cured now and I've let them cool down. So now I can try and get them out of the mould. And I'm not thinking that this one is going to be that easy. So let me try and get that over the top. It's not the most supple of silicones. So let me see if I can get this out. Phew, at last. Just got to get this last little bit off, and it looks like I had to invert that mould. Oh, okay, I've got some little dots of powder in there, but actually I'm not mad. That is really cool. I'm pretty happy with that. So I've just got to deal with this sharp edge at the bottom. I can sand that off, and I've got a bubble there. That is a very strange place to get a bubble. But all in all, that's not too bad. I am going to be covering that with something in a minute. But yeah, I really like those dots of powder. Let me see if I can get this one out. Oh, I've just got to turn my mould the right way around. And then I can try and get this out. Now, that resin has risen up quite high, so don't know if I can grab hold of the mould just to start that off. Can't even get my fingernail under there. Let me just find something that I can use to push that back. Here we go. So just get that slid under there. There we go. And then I can start to pull this down. And this one is a little bit more supple. It's a very thin silicone. So hopefully if I can get this released from the surface, I can roll that back. And I shouldn't have anywhere near as much trouble trying to get this off. Alright, I've got quite a lot of micro bubbles along that edge. I am definitely going to have to invest in a debubbler. Right, almost there. Just wriggle this out of the middle. There we go. Okay, so I've got a few bits of white around the top. There's a couple of specks where I didn't mix the powder in properly. But for the most part, I've lost that cloudy look that I wanted around the outside. It's not too bad. I really do like the colour that I've got. So yeah, I'm all right with it. I just would have preferred a few more clouds, but I think it goes really well with the lid. Yeah, overall I love it. So I'm going to add a little bit more colour by decorating this now. So I'm going to start by adding this ribbon. It's a pink gingham and it just screams spring to me. So I'm going to tie that around the bottom of the bunny ears. I'll start by doing a double knot and then I can add a bow afterwards. So let me just take these off because they are moving all over the place. So the resin's pretty slippery, not the easiest thing to do. I'll just get this into a double knot and then I can tie the loops afterwards. Alright, there we go. Now I'm going to try and do a neat bow. It's a bit of a tight space and my fingers are quite large, so if I can try and find that other loop and pull that through, and then I can arrange the tails and the loops afterwards. I spent a few minutes messing around with the bow, just tugging on the loops and the tails until I got it to the size that I wanted, and it was nice and neat and even. Once I was happy with the way that looked, I needed to cut off the excess ribbon. I used my scissors and I cut across the tail diagonally to give a nice shape to the ends. The ribbon is a little bit too narrow to do the traditional mermaid tail. So I'm just going to even up the other side. Try and make them both a similar length, but it doesn't matter if one is slightly more short. Okay, I'm really happy with the way that that looks, but that's going to get really grubby pretty quickly because it's just fabric. So I need to protect that somehow and seal it. So for that, I need to pop on a pair of gloves. Right, I am going to be using some acrylic varnish for this. You could use a UV resin, but I'm a little concerned that once that resin soaks through, it isn't going to get cured by the lamp all the way on the inside. So it's far safer for me just to use the acrylic varnish. I'm going to put a coat on. It will soak through. It will help to stick it to the bunny ears. And once I've got several layers of this on, it's going to protect it and it will make it a little firmer and it will also be wipeable. I'm using a brush. I'm going to spread that out. Probably take about 15 minutes or so for it to cure all the way through. And then I can add the second layer. Okay, so I've completely soaked that ribbon. I'm going to place this on top of the pot so that this can dry, and that way I can make sure that those ribbon tails are going to be in the right position once this is completely firmed up. Alright, so you can see it's had one layer. It is still a little bit floppy, so it does need a second layer. And this is going to add more shine and make it a lot firmer. This should basically turn the ribbon into a plastic. So again, I'm going to paint this on with a paintbrush. And I don't think I mentioned before, but this is full strength acrylic varnish. It's not diluted or anything. So when I painted this the first time, I really only had to make sure that I painted one side of the ribbon and that varnish was able to soak through. Now, because it's already sealed, I need to make sure that I paint both sides of it. And this is going to make it super strong. Once the acrylic varnish is dry, it will also be completely waterproof. So if I need to give this a quick brush off or wash off later on, it will be fine. Alright, so you do see me do this once before. You don't need to see me do this again. So I'm going to cut to when it is all dried. Okay, that's had 2 coats of varnish now, and I'm really happy with the way that that looks. So now I can start to add the decoration, and I have these cute little roses. They are nail charms. I'm going to add a little bit more colour though with this alcohol marker. It's a Copic Chow and it's got a brush tip. So I'm going to add slightly more pink because these are very pale. They don't look quite right with the ribbon. I may not use that little one actually. I'm going to take that out. So I'm just brushing that tip over the row. Where are you going? Brushing it over the petals and leaving a little bit of the alcohol ink behind. Try and get down into the petals too. I'm going to let that dry for a second, it won't take that long. And I'm going to use this B700 to stick this in place. Now I haven't used this for a little while. Oops, and it shows. Let me try and take that off. Hopefully that nozzle is not blocked. So I'm just going to put a blob on the lid in between the V there because I want to add some little leaves. These are also nail charms and I got both of these things from Temu. Now if I can pick this up with my tweezers, I'm just going to put that in place and it should stick in a little while. It kind of grabs instantly, but it takes about 45 minutes or so to set properly. And I'm choosing to use the B700 rather than the UV resin again because I'm not going to be able to get the light underneath these pieces. They are solid and I want to make sure that everything is going to cure. Alright, those are in place. And now I can put the rose. I'm going to attach that kind of to the ribbon in that middle where the knot is. So I'm going to put a blob on the back. And then I'm not even going to attempt to use my tweezers for this. So if I can just get that in place. Whoops. Alright, I'll have to use my tweezers. Let me see if I can get that upright. There we go. Alright, so that just now needs to sit off to the side and I need to let that completely cure in place. But I think that looks pretty cute. But I do want to just tidy up these edges. They're a little bit frayed, so I can cut the end of the ribbon now that it is sealed with a pair of scissors, and that should neaten up those frayed edges. That's better. Do the other side as well. And because it is already sealed, it won't fray again. There we go. I think that looks a lot better. So I think I'm really happy with the lid. I really love even these little speckles. And I think it looks great on the pot, but the pot itself I think is a little bit too plain. I'm wishing I got some of this white in the pot, but I just didn't. So I think I'm going to decorate it and just break up that blue. And the way I'm going to do that is to draw little dots on it. So I'm going to use a gold chrome marker and I'm just going to freehand some rough dots. I'm not going for a really neat shape. I want them to look a little bit random and raggy, which is just as well because that is the way they're going to come out. And I'm not great at doing random, so I'm just going to draw these around and try and create a pattern just to break up that blue a little bit. Just need to be careful as I'm going around that I'm not going to end up smudging them. Once this is dry, however, it will be fine, it'll be permanent. I won't need to seal it or anything like that. It's just while it's wet and drying, I need to be a little bit careful. So it's going to take about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes before it will dry, at least in my environment anyway. So I'm just going to keep going round. I so love the shape of this pot. I think it would actually make a great pot on its own, even without the little ears on top. Although it is super cute. And I think this is working. These dots, you get quite a lot of polka dot patterns in spring. Yeah, I've got a lot of micro bubbles around the bottom here. So it's not always easy to get a perfect dot, although that's not what I'm going for anyway. So almost there. Might have to fill these in with a little bit of UV resin. Couple more dots. I can see I'm almost back to the beginning. There we go. One more there? Yeah, okay, one more there. There's no point putting them too far down because it's not going to be seen. I'm also going to add a little bit around the edge at the top. It's such a pretty ruffled top. I just want to highlight that. So I'll go all the way around the outside. Got a little bit of a smudge, let me just wipe that off. You can just wipe it off while it's still wet, it will come off easily, and anything that you find afterwards you can take off with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Alright, this just needs to dry and then I can take some photographs, and that is pretty much it. I hope that you've liked this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't. It is free to you, it helps my channel, and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.